Oh my God, it's not. All right. Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Shop Talk Live for this evening. We have some that are still coming in. We had some problems, but some more will be joining us. And for those of you who are already watching, the other day I made a post on my personal social media, and it was a little blurb that I saw, and I thought that really jived with what I was going to do tonight with these guys. And that little blurb went along the lines of everyone wants to take your spot until they find out what it takes to play your position. And that very much fits in with this because I'm sure all these guys have been in that same position at one time or another. And hopefully we can bring that to you tonight. I've asked several of the area's top popular tackle manufacturers to join me this evening. And each of these gentlemen have certainly done talks before tonight, but we're going to do something entirely different than what's ever been done before. I'm going to give each of these guys a chance to introduce themselves. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to be in business and how we do this and the struggles it is, how hard it is to actually make these businesses turn profit, and how we took them from just being a hobby business to an actual viable business. And I think there's certainly other people in the area who have done it as well. And, I'm not saying that these are the only guys that have done it, but they were just people that I knew and that I knew would be well to represent that and give their tips and what they have going on. I do expect this to be a very long discussion tonight because of just so many people being on and what we have to talk about. So if you can't watch live or watch it all, we will share it afterwards, and you can watch it tomorrow on your ride to work. You can listen to it in your car, whatever. And I think it's a lot of good information for everybody to check out. And I hope you guys will listen to it. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to let each one of you introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do, what your business is. And if you have any product that you want to share with somebody out there, feel free to do it. JR, we'll start with you.
So I'm JR. Most know because I post a ton on Facebook, sharing all kinds of different stuff. I own Jigged Up Unlimited. Pretty much do jigs, custom jigs. I have built a website to where the customer could go to that website. If they wanted a certain size hook or a certain color eye, certain skirt, then they could just build all of that what they wanted to fish with. So I have some apparel. Started doing some musky stuff recently. I just pretty much build the lures that I use when I go out and fish, and whatever works, I try to adjust it, do little tweaks to make it better, and try to catch more fish with it. And pretty much most of these guys on here, I've learned from. I've got some of the reasons that I got into it is the guys that are in this group. So I just like building jigs, lures, whatever fish I'm fishing for. That's what I want to build something for.
Nice. CJ?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having us, Ron. I appreciate it. My name is CJ SB. I'm actually one of three owners of Bustin' Baits. The other two are my father-in-law, Bill Wallace, and my brother-in-law, Brandon Wallace. We started the business about, I'd say, roughly 10 years ago. We're a custom soft plastic company. So you'll see us around in stores. Here's what our packaging looks like. We're one of the guys who do some of the stuff with jigging. We also have some soft plastics for like panfish, like your perch. And we're also starting to dabble a little bit into the snakehead game. We're starting to make some frogs, and that's getting pretty popular. And we started this business roughly 10 years ago out of our garage, and we were hand making all of our soft plastics then. And as we'll talk about tonight, it's one of them things like you were saying is it takes a lot of work, man. And we started it from the ground up, and kind of push it forward. So.
Awesome. Rich?
Rich Jenkins, Coach JigHeads. You have to excuse my voice. I spent the weekend yelling at a bunch of 10-year-olds in a baseball tournament. So it's about gone. About half of them had a stomach bug, which I got also. So it's been a mess. But I've been fishing all my life. Used to make a lot of bucktails. I used to fish the bridge. I was a bait fisherman. Proud of it. Then I met Kimbrough about 15 years ago and decided bait was too hard to get. I wanted to learn how to do this jigging. So I started with him, and I started making just jig heads that we were losing. I was losing a lot at the time fishing, trying to learn the jigging. And then when I got a little better at it, then I started trading the jig heads for trips on the water, or friends that wanted some jig heads, give it to them and all. And this went on for quite a few years, and then some of the local tackle stores inquired about it. And I really didn't want to get any busier than I was, to tell you the truth. I was still wanted to fish as much as I could, but I still tried to. But it gets busier, It's I don't want to be any busier than I am right now. I mean, I like the business, but I don't want to be any busier. But materials were hard to get last year. Didn't have enough material, so then I ordered twice as much as I thought I'd need. Now I got more than I need, so it's a tough balance. You try to find what you need and produce a good product. I came out with a new product this year I'm real happy with. It's called a stinger. It kind of started last year with Sean and I went out looking for Spanish mackerel one day, and Sean being who he is, he found some, and we got on them. So I knew we were going to fish for him, so I had stopped by the tackle store, and everybody said these Hoagie epoxy jigs were the thing to do. So I bought one. I wasn't crazy about the price, $10, and I wasn't crazy about I wasn't crazy about the treble hook on it either, but I bought it, and I fished with it, and I paired it up with one of old Joe Yak's feathered jig heads that he gave me about probably 7 or 8 years ago. You can tell they ate it up pretty good. It's kind of an unusual color green. I haven't been able to really reproduce it. I don't know what color this was, but how he done it. But anyway, we fished that day and we tore them up. I mean, we were catching 2 Spanish at a time, and it was a lot of fun on light tackle. So afterwards, Sean and I talked about it, and he said, maybe there's a market for this. So I found a guy who did a real nice job painting the jig heads, and I found a guy who did a nice job tying the hair on the hook. So it's easier than doing jig heads. You just got to put them together, basically. Came up with 7 colors, 5 different sizes from 3/4 up to 3 ounces. I used the 3/4 and the 1s to cast and retrieve quickly for Spanish and rock. And I used the heavier weights to vertical jig. This is what the Stinger 2 looks like. With it's supposed to be yellow and chartreuse. It doesn't show up too good here. And then with the Stinger up above it. And these have been really good. I don't have them on my website. Most of the tackle stores have them, and it's been a really good product. The thing I really think it's good for is the person who's not a really good jigger, either someone's better half or the kids or something who get bored, they can cast it, got a good chance catching a fish. Worst case scenario, they can practice their casting. So I'm real happy with them. I'm happy the way it turned out. They seem to hold up pretty good, and keep making jig heads, I guess, for a while. Thanks.
Nice. Steve, you want to go next?
Certainly will. Thanks for the invite, Ron. Appreciate it. Steve Fogle, co-owner of Backyard Custom Rods. My wife owns the majority of the company. But I've been building rods since 1998. That's when I actually got started building rods. Just for friends and family and some people who wanted them. Then in 2007, I decided to go ahead and start a business, and Backyard Custom Rods came to mind, and that's what I came up with the name. And my little slogan at the time was that I'll build anything from a whipping stick to a tennis stick, but I ain't building no damn fly rod. And that still stands true today. I have built a few fly rods, but not many. But I've built many rods for guys offshore, inshore. I've been very blessed to have rods in a lot more states than I've ever visited here, and out to California, Texas, everywhere. But it's been a great ride for me. I can't express enough gratitude to all the people who put confidence in me to build these fishing rods for them. And business has really, really picked up over the past couple of years. And I know we're going to talk about the COVID thing and, how it affected everyone about products. And yeah, it definitely affected me as well. It's tough getting some products, some parts. Rod blanks were at a minimum there for a while. Thank God for Mudhole. They've been really, really good to me. They got rod blanks in, and when they get them in, they call me and tell me they have them in. They'll actually back order rods for me, and I get up on the list a little bit further, and they tell me the rods are in, and I get these rods built for people. But business has been absolutely fantastic for me. I can't say enough about it. Thank God my wife, she takes care of all the books and everything to keep me straight. And but it's been a good ride, and I hope to continue this for a couple more years here to see how it goes, and we'll see.
Awesome. Bill, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Bill Montgomery from Bass Kandy Delights, BKD Lures. Bass Kandy has been around the Bay since about 2001. My wife and I purchased the company in 2015. And since then, we've just tried to improve the packaging, marketing portion of it. It was already an awesome lure. We offer 12 different colors in both a 6-inch and a 10-inch lure. Pretty well known on the Chesapeake Bay, getting to be better known in Florida, California. I think last year we shipped to 28 different states. So the word's kind of getting out there. It was built to target stripers. It was built to take the place of Bass Assassin, and through the years, again, they came out with a 10-inch bait. Like I said, we purchased it. I would say that our lure is used to target striped bass, of course, cobia, and probably tarpon in that order. Although, I've been in Florida fishing for the last 6 or 7 years, and I don't know a fish that it won't catch or won't eat it. And our goal is to market it in such a way that we could start gaining some market share in areas outside of the Chesapeake Bay region.
Nice. Do you have anything new this year, Bill?
No, not really. We came out with a couple new colors. We're working on another color now that I thought would have out by now, but with the COVID deal, everything's a lot slower. Just like you guys were talking, the biggest problem that we had is getting the stuff when we needed it. As Rich said, you start having to place orders one after another, hoping that something's going to come in, and then all of a sudden they all come in. But in some instances, they weren't when we needed it. We are going to have an announcement pretty soon on an apparel line that we're working with somebody on. We've already have it out, but we're just not quite ready to sell it on our website or I guess you might say easily we have it in a tackle store. But other than that, that's it. We also make jig heads. We make a good simple jig head, 3/8 to 2 ounce, packaged in a quantity that makes sense, and we sell a ton of them.
Nice. LJ, you want to tell everybody about yourself and maybe what you have new for the year?
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks for having me, Ron. It's good to see everybody here. Thanks for having us, and see some fishing buddies in there. Coach, CJ, JR, I've seen you on the water. Bill, I see you all over the place. You're a good friend. And Steve, I've seen you out there on the water too, brother. It's nice to see all you guys. I think everybody knows pretty much about GI Jigs. We have a patented design. We're the only company that can make the design jig head that we sell here with GI Jigs. We've been around going since 2015. I got to say that Bustin' Baits was the ones that pushed me along back in 2015. Because I know Brandon and I, we used to fish a lot. And he'd call me up. I'd be out fishing. He goes, hey, man, you got to get out of here. You're going to make those jigs. Like, you got to start selling those jigs. I didn't want nothing to do with that, I said, forget it, man. I'm not doing that because I never intended to sell these things. And, so as time went along, I figured out like people were buying from me from these fishing shows like crazy. And I was like, well, I designed that thing. I'm going to protect my design. So I got a patent on it, and it got approved, and so did my rain minnow. And I'd been making both of those lures out of plaster Paris mold. I mean, I was really desperate until I found a professional company and got me all set up. So the new thing we've got this year is the 1/2 ounce rain minnow. So that's coming out. I'm working on another bull red lure. Last winter, I was playing and tinkering with some other metals, and they worked really well. I just haven't figured out the manufacturing process yet, but don't be surprised if I throw something else out there that nobody's ever tinkered with. Well, some people have. I've seen other people use them, but they're not something that I made. So yeah, thanks for having me, and let's get on with the show.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to start with this. I see a lot of new small businesses starting in the area selling tackle, and I think I speak for each of us guys when I say that we truly wish those people the best. However, I think that many see what we do and think it's a get-rich-quick scheme. I can sell a pack of jig heads for $5. That's got, I can sell a pack of plastic lures for $6. I can sell a custom rod for $200. Whatever. There's got to be a ton of money in that. In fact, at least for me, and I don't know about you guys, but I've found it quite difficult in this industry, just sourcing the parts, even before COVID, manufacturing, the accounting side, and all that, and what it takes to make a small business work and then actually be profitable has been way harder than I ever imagined. Would you guys agree? And what would you say to somebody thinking about going into something like this? I'm going to start with JR.
I pretty much, I'm probably different than most of the guys in the room. I have a full-time job, and then on the side, I kind of do the jig thing. And I'm not in tackle shops, so I don't have that stress of trying to keep the tackle shops filled. And I leave that type of stuff for everybody else in this group. They can have that fun. I just try to, keep it simple and pretty much get off of work and I'll hang out with the kids and then I'll come downstairs and build whatever tackle I need to build. But I can tell you one thing, it is incredibly hard to get material. It was hard previously, and then with everything that's went on recently, and it's gotten even harder. Some of my hook orders were like 8 months, 10 months. Had a couple that were a year out. So when you're trying to build orders and you're waiting for a hook that you have no idea when it's actually going to come in, and you don't want your customer to be upset with you, and you're trying to make everything work, it can get extremely stressful. And it's sometimes seeing some of the other little pop-ups that come through, you see them and you say, like you said, good luck, because you see how hard it is. And for some of the guys that are in the tackle shops, it gets even harder. Those tackle shops, one minute they need all the inventory you have, and then one minute they might not be selling anything. So I really feel for the guys that are in the tackle shops.
CJ?
Yeah, I mean, JR hit the nail on the head with that, and I think LJ and Rich kind of did too. Is, you know, we all started this kind of, you know, as a small little business, selling some here and there at the shows, and then all of a sudden, you know, every show you're sold out. You're going back trying to make more lures, and you know, you gotta. It's not a get rich quick scheme at all, and you're not getting rich. Period.
Mm-hmm.
At least I'm not, and I don't know how to. So if you guys do, let me know. But you know, it's hard, man. It's a lot of work. I mean, there's many a times like Brandon, Billy, and I, you know, we get done the first day of the Pasadena show and our bins were empty. And we were going back and, you know, sleeting, snowing, and we're standing in a cold shed trying to fill packages just to sell again. And, you know, the amount of time, and like JR said, the tackle shops, you know, that you got to figure out like when you want to make that next step. And, you know, we're not, you know, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, and you got to figure out how to do it the right way, because, you know, now you're getting bigger, you're expanding, and, you know, you got to make sure all your legal stuff, you know, pat your name, you get the LLCs, and you're starting a legit business. And for us three, we weren't businessmen. I mean, we didn't really know. And so, yeah, it's very difficult. And then, you know, like JR touched on, I don't want to keep repeating, but the whole COVID thing and getting products and all that. I mean, it just, you know, tackle shop calls you up and they want all this inventory, and you're like, okay. And then you got to hurry up and try to repackage, rebarcode. You know, we're fortunate now that we did make that next step, and we are manufactured, and it's in the U.S. So we're not getting really hit with the, you know, supply chain stuff, but we also got hit when states shut down, like the state our stuff comes from. You know, they got 2 workers in there when they used to have 10. And, you know, we call them and they're like, hey, that's another 4 weeks. Well, tackle shops don't want to hear that. I mean, they need to sell as quick as they can. Can't tell, you know, these big tackle shops, yeah, we'll have this in 3 weeks. They don't want to hear that. So it's very hard. It's not an easy thing. It's not a get rich quick. It's not even a get rich, you know, for us. So, but it's fun. I do enjoy it. And, you know, we're all fishermen, and that's probably the biggest thing is, you know, I still get the fish now that we're manufactured, so that's good.
Sorry, I don't know why that happened.
That's okay.
Mr. Steve, you're up next.
Well,
If you could just speak up a little bit.
Yeah, can you hear me all right now? Like I say, I don't know what's going on with this thing. I don't want to be
Yes,
repetitious.
get a little closer.
Well, can you hear me now? I'm about as close as I can get.
All right, that should work.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right. I'd like
Move over to your left a little bit.
Oh, this way?
There you go.
How's that? I don't want to be repetitious of what CJ and JR were saying, you know, but I wish anybody the best of luck if they're going to start a business. It's not as easy as you actually think it's going to be. It took a long time, and I mean a long time, for me to get my name out there for people to recognize a backyard custom ride. It's a tough business. It's a very tough business. It's not a get rich quick business either. But there again, with COVID hitting and everything, it was just a tough year for getting parts rod blanks, but I was fortunate enough, like everybody else, I ordered a bunch of stuff when this hit. So I did have a supply of stuff when it came in to build rods. But there again, I still do them by hand. You know, I don't have electric winders or anything. I do all by hand, and it does take time to do them. So I tell people, hey, it's going to be a little bit before I get the rods done, but I do the best I can. But there again, it's a tough thing out there, and I wish anybody the best of luck, and I'll help anyone get started in a business in rod building. In fact, I kind of have before, but it's fun. I still enjoy it. I told my wife when it comes to be a job, I don't want to do it any longer. It is still a hobby to me. I am busy. Every day I'm getting phone calls for rides. Like you, Ron, I finally got a few tackle shops now that's going to be having my rides in their tackle shops. That's coming up here soon. And of course, like I say, I've built rides for people all over the place. So it's been a fun ride. I want to continue doing it, but it's not the easiest thing. And it's not a money-making deal either. I can tell you that. Just ask my wife.
Awesome, Steve, and you did welcome me into the business when I came in. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Ritz, you're up next.
Well, yeah, no one's making a lot of money, I don't think. I just like to pay for my fishing habit, to tell you the truth. So if I can, you know, and I tell you, it's funny because just a couple of days ago, I looked at my inventory in the shop, and I'm thinking maybe I'd just be smart to sell, you know, close the business, sell off this inventory, and just get back to fishing. But there are certain months of the, you know, like in the winter when the fishing's not as good, I do enjoy just going out, trying to get a surplus going. You know, hopefully it sells when the shows in the spring, and it keeps you going. It's something to do for me. You know, I'm getting up in the years, and I really don't know how much longer I want to do it, to tell you the truth. But I enjoy it. I wish that Dan Kimbrough, a few years ago, had never written in that book that eyes were important for a jig head. You know, because eyes are the biggest pain in the butt there is. Eyes.
Heard
Those
that
eyes
before
on
from some other jig makers.
Yeah, like Sean wrote in his book that, you know, eyes are important, and everyone believes it, and they are. You know, there's times I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are, but man, I hate the eyes. But I know Bill can relate to this, especially. A couple of shout outs. So listen, I sell a lot of rig baits to shops. I sell a lot of Fat Boys from Bustums, and I sell a lot of the 10-inch baits from BKDs, and they really both of them make a quality product, and
Thank
I'm
you,
real
Rich.
happy with it. And another
Thanks,
thing
Rich.
with Steve, I haven't used Ron's rods yet, but Steve, I had a bunch of rods a few years ago that were good, were old power rods, and they were great rods, but they were getting a little ugly. Steve, I sent them up to Steve, new guides, new wraps, refinished the whole rod. It looked like a brand new rod. So anybody out there that's got an older rod they really like, you know, some people will do it, some people won't. I'm sure he's not making any money on those, to tell you the truth, because it was a lot of work. And but if you have a rod that you really like, see one of these rod builders and see if they'll fix it up for you. But
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
yeah.
Before I move on to Bill, I really
Lonnie's the only one making a lot of money. His stuff's always sold out. So good for him.
before I move on to Bill, and I do want to point that out, and I think it's something important to point out, is that each one of us guys, and even people that aren't in this group tonight of small business owners in the area, we all support each other in some way. Even Steve and I behind the scenes. You know, just a month ago, Steve, you called me and asked me if I needed some piping for shipping rods, and I mean that's just the kind of stuff that we do. We have to work together, because if we don't, none of us are going to make it. And you know, even though a lot of these guys all of us sell competing products, we still work together, and in many cases we share customers. And I'm going to get into more of that later. But Bill, how are you handling things this year?
Well, you know, it's kind of funny talking about somebody wanting to get into this business? Well, it's obvious we all have a passion for fishing. And if it wasn't for that,
Yep.
we wouldn't be doing it. At least I wouldn't be doing it. And I think I can say that to everybody. I don't remember when I didn't fish. I fished when I have a picture when I caught my first fish by myself. I was 2 years old. But I have a little different background in that I spent 41 years in industrial sales. So I've been in the sales management world, and I worked for a distributor. So obviously, I know a little bit about supposedly buying and selling parts, you might say. Um, the I always get a kick out of somebody that starts this business and they start saying how good they're doing. And I was one of those guys, and God bless them, and you are doing good. But when all of a sudden you get so busy and you're not prepared, but you're happy as can be, and you got to tell your wife, "No, I can't go to dinner tonight. I've got to get this stuff out the door for tomorrow." That's when it starts. Well, that's when you start questioning, "Am I doing the right thing?" When it starts affecting what you've done most of your life, and the scale that it takes to beef up to that next level isn't always worth it. But if you don't do it, then you're probably going to get left behind, unless of course you have a niche. So I like I said, like everybody said here, that no one's getting rich. It's a fun business to get in. To your point, Rich, I like being able to pay for my charter trips and stuff like that. um it's fun to be in the community, and every one of you guys, JR, Rich, both bailed me out several times, painting some jig heads when I needed them. um it is a community, and then there's a community, but beyond this, of all of our customers. So that's probably some of the fun part, and then we're all involved in some organizations, clubs, or whatever, and that part's fun. But yeah, if you're doing it for the money, you better be prepared to spend some money, and have a business plan, and but you better realize that there's some big dogs out there. For me, Z-Man, they can do whatever they want, and I always say, one of the things I always say is, to make a great bait, I use them. I used them long before I bought BKD. Um, but I don't remember them sponsoring a tournament or anything. So, just ask everybody local that, remember these guys, and that are working to build a quality local product that is targeted at you in your area. So, yeah, there's lots of competition out there, but the big dogs, they're the ones that have the advertising bucks, and you know they're the ones that make it difficult for me, I think. The other thing that talking about going through the COVID, I probably had more issues with satisfactory quality than I did worried about getting parts and stuff. Yeah, we got behind on jig heads because you couldn't get hooks and stuff. But only thing I can say about that is everybody was behind because they couldn't get hooks either. So it wasn't like it. But what I hated is to wait a long time for delivery, and because the guys that used to make your stuff for you had 20 guys, and like CJ said, now they got two, and some of those guys didn't do what they did before. Now all of a sudden, they're pitching in trying to do it, and so I had quality issues that made it difficult, whether it be the hardness of the bait, the color of the bait, both, and then lead times of somebody call you and say, when am I going to get my stuff? You'd call your guy that's injecting for you. Oh, we're going to ship that out tomorrow, and 2 weeks go by and you still don't have it. You've already told 3 customers, "Oh man, I'm going to have that stuff in 3 days." So that's been the biggest headache for me, I think, because I just don't like telling customers something that I believe to be true, but it's not true. And those are the issues that drove me up the wall. It's getting better, but it still isn't as good as it was, at least for me.
No, we're with you, Bill.
Yep.
Same thing. I mean,
And
I think we
like
all
Rich
are.
said, we just got done doing our inventory, and it's way too much inventory. If I worked for my company that I worked for 41 years, they'd probably fire me with all the
All your
inventory.
profits in your inventory, you know?
Yeah, it is. And that's the other part too.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks, well, let's go to the next step and have somebody do your injection molding for you. That's all well and good, but you have to buy a ton of it at a time.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting on it. And so there's just two things you can do. You can either sell more of it or buy less of it at a time. And that doesn't usually happen together. So, as far as being bigger or I don't even know if I want to call it bigger, but big enough that you're using production manufacturing, you still have to spend a ton of money to get the stuff because you have to buy the minimums, and they're not small. So, but like we said, we have a passion.
Thank you, Bill.
For fishing,
LJ,
so.
how has COVID affected? Yep. Thank you, Bill. LJ, how has COVID affected you, and what would you say to somebody looking to try to get into the tackle industry?
Well, the interesting thing is that, I was active duty Army for 25 plus years, and coming out into the civilian life was a huge shift. So if you're coming into any business, you need to be willing to put in the time, because it's a lot of time, and there's a lot of time that you spend with your business. You don't make a dime, with your books, your accounting, on the phone with vendors, all the rest of that stuff. That's how it is. But if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's just hard work. And, I was active duty, and I got my business degree, my bachelor's degree in business, and that was all corporate. And when you're starting to talk here, like being an entrepreneur, that's a whole nother level. If you think about starting a business, I'll just kind of talk about it just slightly here. You come up with a name, you come up with a service, or you come up with a product. I've had three. This is my third business. I've had a consulting business for IT work. I thought I was going to be a charter fishing captain, and then all of a sudden this stuff took off. So I do the jigs full time. So you come up with your name, then you brand. You need to brand yourself. You need to follow your passion. That leads anything that you're going to do with making your own business, regardless whether it's in the fishing industry. So stick to those principles. It takes time. Be patient. Don't be in a hurry thinking I'm going to get rich. I tell you what, if you're looking into the fishing industry, you're not going to get rich. Okay, but it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people, just like the ones here on this show. It's a fantastic. Fishing, the fishing industry, the people in it. There's a bond with everyone here, and we all have the same passion. And I know if I needed anything, I'd just make a phone call to anybody here in this show, and they'd be glad to help me out. And that's throughout the industry too. Like, we're just a small sample of that. With the COVID, whoo, boy, inventory, what a huge hurdle. It's not going to get any easier this year either. You got to look ahead. You got to plan ahead. You got to forecast. It's all part of the business. Something I've had to start getting into is purchase orders with customers, because they need product just like anyone else. Like, they need inventory. And so, it's always good for me I sit down with my larger customers and I discuss this with them and talk about projections, and I'll come up with numbers just for them, and then I'll break it all down into color sizes and all the rest of that stuff. So if you are going to jump into it, don't be afraid, but just understand it's not easy, and it's a challenge. And if you're up for a challenge, go tackle it. That's the best way to get into any industry, whether it's the fishing industry or whatever niche you're in. And if you're going to, one last thing, if my advice to anybody that's going to start a business, I don't care what you do, fix your problem, and you're probably going to fix a whole lot of other people's problems along the way. And if you can do that and do it, you got to do it really well. If you can do that, then you're going to be successful, you know? So that's my recommendation for everybody.
Yep.
And then I want to be encouraging so that, you know, people are not afraid or leery to do things. Jump in the deep end of the pool, you know?
Yeah, it's all them hidden costs, just like you and I were talking the other day, LJ, about the barcodes and everywhere you turn, somebody's got their hand out, man. Everything you want to do, it's just money.
It is money.
So,
it is money for sure.
Speaking, I think my second question had to do with COVID and sourcing parts, but all of you guys kind of hit on that at once. So anybody out there watching, like, it should be pretty evident right now, like how bad COVID has really affected all of every business, not just us guys, but I mean, getting stuff is a nightmare. Everything's always on back order. And, you know, just the fact that them guys all threw that in and took up my second question for them, that tells you how big of a deal that is to everybody right now. But the one part that I do want to touch on with all you guys, because I know it's something that affected me personally, I already had to put the price of my rods up this year. But speaking from the fishing rod side, I've seen price increases, and manufacturers that I buy from have already told me to expect either a price increase in the second or third quarter, or there would definitely be a price increase coming in the second or third quarter. Have you guys seen that, and how are you handling it with your businesses? JR?
Shipping probably is
I agree.
the number one thing. It's constantly changing. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to go up at least once, and it'll probably go up twice. And you deal with shipping both on when you're ordering material and when you're shipping out your orders. So you catch it both ways. And it's similar to the gas right now. You might go into the post office one day and it went up 25 cents, 40 cents, whatever it may be. And I'm sure it's going to go up even more with fuel being high, and you're going to have to, all your product, the material that you buy, the product that you sell, you're going to have to adjust. That's also one of the things that goes back to starting a business is, once you get into this, that's the things that you have to think about is, what are the price changes? Because that could affect your profit in the end, and you're already not really making anything, and you're covering your fishing trips. But now with shipping going up, product going up, then now you're making nothing, or you're in the negative. So you constantly have to adjust. You're getting taxed more, or there's a bunch of stuff that goes on that you have to worry about. And it's affecting me just in my regular job. You got to drive to work. At work, you're dealing with parts, and it's the same thing there. They're not getting anything. None of our parts are coming in. So shipping has probably been the number one thing that price changes that you have to constantly pay attention to.
Yep.
CJ? So, yeah, I mean, obviously the shipping is definitely going to be a big deal. And Bill probably can attest to this, but, plastic's petroleum based. So, even prior to this whole Ukraine-Russia thing, gas prices were on the rise and oil prices were on the rise, and that affects plastics. And we have seen an increase in plastics, and I can only imagine how high it's going to go with all this stuff going on right now. So, of course, like JR was saying, all the shipping is definitely hurting as well. But yeah, I mean, our products have definitely went up in price over the last, 6 months or so. And, it's all, as the little company, we're not the big guys. We're not the guys that are in Bass Pro. It affects us a little more. We don't have that wiggle room that we're getting thousands and thousands and thousands of baits shipped over from China. We're just small guys, and ours is still made in the U.S., but it's not huge numbers. So we got to try to we try to not do it too much where it like really is noticeable, but you got to use it. Maybe if it's 10, 15, 20 cents a pack here and there, that's what we got to do. So the petrol, this whole gas oil thing is really for the plastics is definitely affecting everything.
Mr. Steve.
Well, there again. Can you hear me now again? Yeah, I'm about the same way. I got contacted back in September from Mudhole, which I do 95% of my business through Mudhole, that they were going to raise prices on the products that I was actually using to build rod. So I had to adjust my cost to that. And then I just got word last week that they were getting ready to adjust the shipping to go up also. And that's going to come into effect, I think he said, next week. So it's a tough thing to do. You try to keep your prices, competitive. But there again, you got to go with what they're going to do. If they're going to raise the prices, you're going to have to raise a little bit yourself. And many of my friends, and Bill's one of them, told me years ago I need to raise my prices. I try to keep them as reasonable as I can. And like you, Ryan, I don't make any money on these rides. I mean, very little bit of money I make. But there again, it's still fun. I'm just upset with everything that's going on around here, the price of fuel, and like CJ and JR said, there's nothing we're going to do, can't do about it. We're just going to have to deal with it, and that's the price that need to be adjusted. People have to understand this is the way it's going to be for a while.
Oh, Rich, how have you seen it with the jigs and products you make?
Yeah, the shipping's the main thing. Everything's gone up, and it's just accumulation. I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but a little bit on the eyes, a little bit on the skirts, a little bit on the paint. Before you know it, your price has gone up. The tackle stores, they don't want tackle stores have never been busy within the last couple of years. They've made more money than they've made in the last probably 10 years, per year. But there is a lot of competition, so you're afraid to raise your prices too much, afraid, kind of bump you out and go with somebody else that's cheaper. Like you say, might be just getting into it. So it's just, you got to kind of suck it up, and hopefully it's going to level off. But I don't see that happening. I think it's just going to I think it's really going to get bad. I would say buy as much as you can, that you can now, because it's only going to go up higher. And, I don't know. It's definitely the petroleum is going to be.
Bill, what have you guys seen?
Well, I was just funny. Steve and I were just talking the other day, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but the end of the year inventory and stuff, I'm starting looking at stuff. I was looking at some shipments that we got in December, and the freight went up enough on those shipments that would affect my pricing by 8%. I was shocked, and I started doing some digging. I've contacted the vendor. They're doing some digging too. Everybody, but it just goes to show you, everything's going up. And I'm not mad at anybody. I do have to say I've had some customers tell me my freight charges are too expensive, and frankly, they don't even really cover my outgoing freight. But I just think it's funny when you look at your gas station every day. I mean, that's why freight's going up, and it's going to keep going up. And if you don't raise your price now, you'll be sorry later, because you're going to get another hit, and then you'll just be either be behind or you'll be having a huge increase. And you just said, Rich, buy as much as you can and see what happens. The problem with that is that if you keep selling it at that same price, though, you don't have enough to restock your inventory because you're not making enough money to cover the increases that that's coming your way.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah, it's just I think everybody sees the good thing is everything's going up. You go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, no matter where you go, it's going up. And it is difficult for someone as small as we are to try to implement a increase, of 10% or whatever it has to be. But there's only one alternative, and that's to not make any money and go out of business. So you got to do what you got to do. And, obviously try to be as efficient as you can and work with your vendors. And, but, long and short of it is, if you're not making enough money to stay in business, you'll go out of business.
LJ?
Yeah, I hate to raise prices, but
Me too.
It's just a fact of life. Everything, everything goes up. So I purchased my hooks. There's all these pieces: the paint, the glue, like just the flashaboo, all of those moving parts. Last year, we had an increase also. And it was like, it hit me like in the middle of the year, and I said, forget it. I just ate it. I said, forget it. This year I had to raise prices. It wasn't an option. Like Bill said, you have to look forward too, because the next time you go purchase that, the cost of you getting that inventory in is already went up. I think right now I ended up being on the light side this year. I think I had increased by about 6% so far, but I already know as soon as I turn around here, come in here about 3 months from now. I'm going to say 3 months from now is going to be that's when everything that's going on right now, that's when it's going to hit us. June.
Right.
Watch out for June. If you can grab stuff now, grab it. So if you're getting into the business, get out there and get your stuff now. That's all I can tell you, if you can find it. It's very difficult. You got to stay on top of all of the vendors that you have to get your parts and things like that. Stay ahead of the game, because you don't want to be caught without chartreuse paint. Okay. And that happened to me last year. Like, oh my God, I freaked out. I had to call all over the place to find some chartreuse paint. It was silly. But, stuff like that happens. As you move forward, just think that direction. And, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that the price of things are going up, including their fishing lures. Everything's going up. The price of eggs, you name it, it's all going up. So
yeah, if they'll pay that much for a new boat, they ought to pay a little bit more for tackle, right?
Yeah.
But I was just down in Florida
right now.
I was just down in Florida talking to some big charter captains, and they believe they're going to see diesel fuel go up to $8. And like you said, you can get in front of it the best you can, but they said there's definitely going to be people, because they have to put a surcharge in. There's going to be people that fish once a year that save their money, go on vacation, and they're going to say, no, I'm not going to pay another $500 on top of the $1,000 I'm already paying you to take me out, with 6 other guys or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary. We're thinking about that kind of stuff. You can say it is all relative, but the problem is there's choices to be made. Do I need to buy fishing lures, or do I need to get bread and milk? And that's what it's going to come down to, unfortunately. But hopefully, we'll get out of this and things will settle down, and we'll all be better.
Thank you guys for answering that. And I asked that question on purpose because I wanted the customers of everybody in this, and even ones that aren't, to understand what's getting ready to happen. And it's inevitable. We can't help it. Like, don't get mad at us. It's not our fault. Like, it just isn't. And I think that Rich gave a really good tip, and I hope that everybody paid attention to it. If you can, and you can afford it, stock up on your tackle now. And I'm not trying to make everybody make a run on anglers or island tackle or all tackle or, any of the shops. But if you think you're going to need 30 GI jigs and 2 packs of Bustums and 2 packs of BKDs, and you're looking to order a rod from Steve, and you need some of Rich's new stingers and a couple of custom jigs from JR, and you can afford it, do it now, because their prices likely may not be the same in August or July. So that was a real aimed question that I put out there. If you can afford to stock up now, do it, because I think you will save yourself some money this year.
We should be able to get together and set our prices, right? They're a little higher.
Well, I could set it. Nobody would buy it right now.
Might not be a bad idea,
Maybe a year from now they'll buy it,
Yep.
but because it'll be a good price then. But
yeah.
So to everybody out there watching, it should be pretty obvious by now that while each of us and others that aren't on this podcast sell similar products, we all coexist in the same market, and we're friends, and we hold a sizable market share. Pretty much all of us share customers. Steve and I share customers. A lot of our customers have both our rods. The guys selling jigs, everybody's got their jigs in their box. The guys with the soft plastics, everybody's got Bustum in their box. Everybody's got a pack of BKDs laying right next to it. And that works for a reason. And that reason is that we have a unique product that we each put out. And we share customers because they need each of those products. So somebody may like Steve's rod for one technique. He may like my rod for another technique, right? He may like Bustum baits in the fall, and he might like BKDs in the spring. That's what makes the products unique. Bill didn't start with BKD trying to build the same thing that CJ and his partners build. Likewise, JR and LJ and Rich don't all build the same jig head. They didn't just try to copy each other, right? They each have a niche. JR builds a custom jig. Rich builds a custom jig of his own. Lonnie's got a patented design, right? And people will use them products at different times for different reasons, for different purposes, and to give a different presentation. So that's one really good thing that I think that people should note, because I see that a lot right now, especially in this area, is people try to chase the same product down and copy doing the same thing over and over and over and over. You're never, ever, 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 ever in a million years going to succeed, because you can try to copy Steve Fogle's rod, but people are not going to buy it, because you might get a couple of people to do it, but they know that Steve perfected that. They're going to go to Steve for that rod. They're not going to go to Bill to buy a straight-tailed bait with the grooves cutting aside, or because it's got the fat profile. Likewise, they're not going to go to CJ to buy that bait. It does no good to copy that person at all. It's never going to help you. Bill said it best earlier. You need, or maybe it was LJ, you need to solve for a problem and figure out what that problem is, or what's not in the market already, and come up with that. And that's what it's going to take to make you successful. And in an example of that, and I don't want anybody to get upset, and I hope they don't out there, but if you look at like the snakehead market right now, you've got a dozen guys that make the same damn chatterbait, right? And they're literally buying the parts for it off the same damn website. It's the same part. They may put it together a little different, but it's the same damn thing. All they're doing is diluting their market share, right? Because there's only so many guys that are going to buy that chatterbait, and they don't care if JR made it or I made it or LJ made it. It's the same thing, right? They're just picking it up off the shelf. come up with your new chatterbait, because when Z-Man came out with that, that was the newest thing, right? So you need to be thinking about how can I make a better fishing rod than what Ron and Steve does? How can I make a better jig than what these guys do? How can I make a better soft plastic than what Bill and CJ does? That's what your success is going to be. Guys, what would your one tip be to somebody out there looking to start a business to get themselves going, to set them apart from everybody else? JR?
I definitely agree with everything you said, and I kind of did the same. I think I started maybe 7 years ago now. But LJ was in it. I watched him grow. Watched Rich and Sean fish and seen how they did things, and they like everybody was established, and LJ was just getting into the tackle shops, and I kind of said to myself, there wasn't anywhere where a customer that wanted a specific thing could go and order whatever he wanted, certain hook. If you wanted standard strength hook, 2x strong hook, whatever it was that he wanted, a certain color eye that person had a preference for, or a certain color skirt, all these different variances I could put into a list, and you could just go to that website, click on what you wanted, build your own. And I offer a bunch of different styles of jigs, and I kind of wanted to stick to that niche where it was build your own and let everybody else have tackle shop, and kind of build my own path. That way I didn't step on anybody's feet, because like I said earlier in the cast, I've learned from all these guys. Rich and Sean is pretty much how I got into striper fishing. LJ, I've watched him grow his business. Fished with most of these guys in here, camping trips with Bill, fishing with Ron. I use Steve's rods. I use Ron's rods. I use Bustin' Baits. I use BKBs. I got some 4-ounce GIs in my tackle box for when I go up Cape Cod Canal. I got some 5/8 Rich Coach JigHeads in my tackle box for certain situations when the fish are suspended. Try to use everybody's stuff and stick to my own little my website. And another thing that I don't think anybody touched on, maybe Bill did with the tournament thing, sponsoring thing, but that's another reason I like doing this, is being able to give back to the fishing community, doing stuff for CCA, and helping out with the fishing community. That's another reason I like doing this stuff. But yeah, just keep your own niche. Try to do your own thing. You get into the business, but find something that is specific and it works for fishing, whatever it is, and just separate yourself. That's the biggest thing.
CJ?
Yeah, so definitely that niche is very important, like JR was saying. I think kind of everybody's touched on. For us, if I would have had this talk, 10, 11, 12 years ago before we even started, it probably would have helped, because, we started as a freshwater company, just maybe like a hobby, right? And, we quickly realized within the first year or two, like, man, there's just too much freshwater out there. How many times can you make a color Cinco? How many times can you make a crawl that's really any different? And honestly, the big companies, even, these like the Zooms and the Guggen Baits and all those guys, they all have the same issue too, right? They can't seem to not make the same bait, but just maybe they change a claw. So, having that niche, like I think for us is the split tail with the fork, the split in the back with the fork, gives a little bit more action. One of the things why we chose that style bait was because a lot of the market, it has the straight tail. So it was just a little bit different. And, honestly, when the stripers are feeding, you probably don't even need a plastic on there. They'll just eat the jig heads. But, if we can give just a little bit of a different look to what was out there, and that's kind of where, after about year 3, we started to realize, like, man, we need to change something up. And once we found the style bait, and that we figured the saltwater market was much easier to target in this area than the freshwater, we ran with it, and that's kind of where we're at now. So, it's very important. You don't want to be the same. You don't want to follow and copy, because like Bill and BKD, and even before Bill, the old owner, he had a really strong following around here, and it wasn't easy to break into the market, but we kind of hung in there and changed, the bait profile a little bit, and that has worked for us, so that was just kind of where we went, and that's it.
Steve?
Can you hear me okay now or not?
I can hear you better now, actually.
Okay. What I would tell anybody, do some research first before you get started on anything. Just like rod building. There's so many videos out there that show you how and what to do on building a rod. That's the one thing I would really stress. Do some research before you jump into something like this. And you hit it right, Brian. Your rods are different from mine. Mine's different from yours. We both have our little niche. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, nothing wrong with that at all. And honestly, I sent people to you because I didn't want to feel like building a fly rod. And I hope they called you for it because I wasn't going to build it. And I said, well, call Ron Buffington. He's the one who can build it for you. But there again, do some research before you jump into anything. Because if you don't and you just want to start building rods, it's not going to work for you. I just had a gentleman here at the house just a week ago who wanted to build a damn ice rod. And believe me, Ron, if you want to build ice rods, I'll send you all the customers I get. I ain't building them.
No, I have no idea. They're like spaghetti noodles. I'm good on them.
You're damn right. And if you would have seen, and I will tell you, Bill Dickerson came to the house and tried to build these rods. And with his fat sausage fingers, there was no way he could have wrapped those little tiny rods with those guides on them.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny to watch him. He was giving it all he could, but it was tough for him. But Bill's a good guy, and like I said, we got the rods built. There's, I think, 4 of them we built while he was here. But no, people need to go out and look at some videos before they get into it, see who was doing them. I like I say, I'll be willing to help anybody, get started in the business if they do it right. Get your license, you get everything you need to get a business started. It's just those guys out there, Ron, that probably some that I do, and that I'll just leave it there. But there again, just do some research.
Yeah.
And if you like what you're doing, or like do it, and God bless you. I hope it works out for you.
Rich?
I think JR's got the right idea. Custom stuff is probably the way to go. I feel like people pay more money for something custom. They should. And it's probably a good idea. The old business model is bigger, better, or cheaper. It's hard to make it cheaper, so you guess you got to do it better. Everybody should try and find something that stands out. And like we started at 5/8 a while ago. I went fishing with Phil Anderson several years ago, and Phil tore the fish up that day with a 5/8 round jig head. I stopped at Short Tackle on the way home and said, I want some 5/8. And Billy looks at me and goes, you really think an eighth of an ounce makes a difference? I said, it did today. It sure seemed like it did, unless the guy's just that much better fisherman, which he might be. He didn't have any. So about a year later, I got a custom mold for a 5/8. And I can't tell you how many 5/8 jig heads I've sold over the years, but it's been a lot. And to do something different. And, I had a guy ask me for an ounce and a quarter the other day. I don't know. Will an ounce and a quarter make any difference? But it may be, who knows? So
Might to somebody, yeah.
Might to somebody.
Bill?
Just got to find enough of those people.
I don't think I can add much. Just like everybody said, different is obviously good. I think the number one thing anybody needs to do is make sure they build a quality product. If it's not quality and you think you're going to get rich quick and go out and sell a bunch of them, well, it takes a lot of sales of cheap items to make a lot of money, number one. And number two, it'll catch up with you. So, test the time is the quality products that are out there. They're the ones that last. That's what people go back to. So to me, build something different if you can. And if it can't be real different, make it better.
Yep. LJ, I'm sure you got some good advice
Well, my tip is, I
on
think
somebody coming
the
up with
best
their
thing that
own,
you
you know.
the thing that you need to do is you need to, if you're going to get into the fishing business, fish, okay? And it seems like if I'm looking
Yeah.
forward, the rockfish seasons are they incrementally they're going to get smaller, the seasons, and there's a lot of species in the bay. Last month, January, I caught a flounder. In February, I caught a flounder. They're out there, and I caught a ton of flounder. They were all too small to keep. There's black sea bass out there. There's blue cats out there. And this is, I'm not talking about north of the bridge. I'm talking out at Chesapeake Beach. I got a hunch right now, if I ran out on Holland Point and I gave it a good effort, I could find me some blue cats, especially outside of the creeks in there. If you're, my tip is focus. If you want it, like you, Ron, you already said, hey, all these guys, they're making the same lures with these for these snakeheads or something, or the frogs or whatever they are. Target different species, go out there, learn it, master it, and then come up with your own idea, and you will set yourself apart from everyone. Just even I've caught those blue cats on lures out here, out of the beach. I have. They eat paddle tails. They eat rattle traps. If they get it in their mouth, they're going to eat it, and they're not afraid to attack baits. So I mean, it's just one of the species that are out there. So, my tip is focus forward, and consider different species. Go out there, target them, master it, and come up with your own designs. And you're gonna, I would buy those baits in a minute. So there you have it. Go get them.
And I think that you. So I think you touched on something also when you said go fish, because I actually saw a few weeks ago, I saw somebody post a product. I'm not going to specify what kind of, but this guy posted a product and he goes, this is the ultimate blank blank for striper jig, light tackle jigging stripers. I know for a fact that guy probably has never even light tackle striper fished in his life. And if he has, he's probably never caught more than 5, right? So it's like people see through that, right? So like if you, like, don't just like if you got like one product and you want to expand, don't just expand into something else because you think I'm gonna do that. And it's like you actually have to have some street cred or something, like like Steve said, like I don't build ice fishing rods because I've never ice fished in my life. I know what they are, but like I don't do I try not to do surf rods because I don't surf fish and stuff like that. And like a lot of times, like my customers that come to me wanting trolling rods, I send them to Steve because I've never really trolled, so I don't know what it takes, but I know that Steve builds a lot of trolling rods, so I refer those customers to him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure you guys have things like that maybe in your side too. So that's another point. Like stick with what you know. You know what I mean? And if you don't know, don't bullshit people because they're probably gonna see through it. But my last thing, and this is not really a question, it's kind of something that I think every one of you is gonna like laugh and shake your head when I say this. But if you are going to go into the fishing business and you plan on taking it as serious as any of these people right here that you're looking at, you had better be ready to fish a hell of a lot less. I mean, like seriously, like that's the old saying. You get into the fishing business, you better be ready to give up fishing because it becomes infinitely harder to keep up with the production and the marketing and the accounting and all that and still fish. It is tough. So
Helps if you're retired.
with that, though, I would like to thank all these guys. What's that, Coach?
It helps if you're retired.
Yeah,
What was that,
it
Coach?
does.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, a couple of us younger guys in here aren't retired yet, so we're
I
still
would
on
trade
the
with you in a
grind.
heartbeat.
Exactly. But anyway, look, I think we did a really good job of keeping this short tonight, guys. Does anybody have anything they want to add or think is important to this conversation?
No, thanks for having me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's a
Yep.
lot
Yeah,
of fun.
thanks, Ron. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's been
Yeah,
fun.
thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Good seeing everybody.
Thank you,
Stay
guys.
healthy.
Good talking to everybody.
Yeah.
Fun.
Well, hopefully
Also,
we'll all get together and fish this year.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Or if
After
anybody
we
wants
catch
to
up
come up
I
with
think
odds
that
on JigHeads, I can put you to work.
Yeah,
I
if
could
you go
use some
fishing
people
with
to
Bill,
help
you got to
out.
put eyes on jigs and stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
I've already been there.
I'm
I
only
think
like
I could use some
I'm only
people to
like
help
2,000 or
wrap
3,000
guides if you
behind,
guys are.
so
Now,
no,
one
it's
thing,
really
Ron,
not fun.
I would like to add is, there's a lot of good products in this we all make, and definitely supporting local is important. And I think we all try to do it. I think jig heads, rods, anything. So we appreciate it as a small business. I know we get a lot of people talking at the shows. It's great that a lot of people just go to the stores looking just for the small businesses, and we do appreciate that.
Very much. Well said.
So to anybody out there watching, please take a minute if you haven't already and check out each of these guys' business page. Like it, follow it, check out their products. If you're not already familiar with them, all good people, all good products. You can find a lot of these guys' stuff. I think pretty much everybody. JR, you don't sell to stores at all?
Nah, I'm pretty much all website, and like I do my ready to ship album on Facebook, where that's stuff that I've finished in a little bit of, like, I might have a window between work and kids where I put something together in between orders, but it's all website. I'll let everybody else have the tackle shops.
All right. Well, I think the rest of us are in a tackle shop here and there somewhere. So you can also check out our stuff there. And I will not be doing any more Shop Talk Lives for probably 2 to 3 weeks. I will be in Florida next week, and we need to wrap up getting our line of rods out to the stores for April. So I got like one big last push in me. And then about the 1st or so of April, I do have a big announcement, and I'll probably be having Bill and a couple other folks on with me for that show. And that will probably be the end of the Shop Talk Lives for the year because it's going to be warm and everybody's going to be out fishing. So hopefully I've kept everybody entertained and educated over the winter. And if there is something somebody out there wants to see me do before I wrap things up for the year, just send me a message and I'll try to make that happen. But otherwise, I will see you guys again in April. And thank all of you for joining me tonight. I hope it was informative to everybody that watched and an interesting show. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ron.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you all. Good luck to
See you
you.
guys.
See you
See ya.
guys.
Thank you.